ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear Prabhujis, dear friends. So we were reading the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized. And in our previous session we had read the 22nd verse. वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. Lord Shri Krishna is explaining to his friend Arjunji that the body is like, Lord Shri Krishna is comparing the body with the garments. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So very beautiful verse and very beautiful purport we read. Swami Shrila Prabhupada explained various concepts. So in the 23rd verse, another very beautiful verse, Lord Shri Krishna continues his instruction, and is another very very beautiful verse. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha na chainam kleyadeyante apo na soshyati marutaha. नैनम छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनम दहति पावकः न चैनम क्लेदयन्ते आपो न शोष्यति मारुतः. So very beautiful verse. Na, never, enam, unto this soul. Na enam, nainam. Na, never, enam, unto this soul. Chindanti, can cut into pieces. Shastrani, all weapons. Na, never, enam, unto this soul. Dahati, burns, pavakaha, fire. Na, never, cha, also. Enam, unto this soul. Kledayanti, moistens. Apaha, water. Na, never, soshyati, dries. Marutaha, marutaha, wind. Marutaha, Maruti Nandan. Lord Hanuman is also addressed as Maruti Nandan, son of Vayu, son of wind, son of demigod, wind. So, very beautiful verse. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chayanam kleyadayante apo, na soshyati marutaha, nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chayanam kleyadayante apo, na soshyati marutaha. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. The soul can never be cut into. So in the purport, Swami Shrila Prabhupada explains all kinds of weapons, swords, flames, rains, tornadoes, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Firearms were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original soul. The Mayavadi, however, cannot describe how the individual soul evolved from ignorance and consequently became covered by illusory energy. Because they are atomic individual souls, Sanatanaha, eternally, they are prone to be covered by illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord. Just as sparks of the fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcel of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So, even after being liberated from illusion, the living entities remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. So, very beautiful verse and very beautiful explanation by Swami Shrila Prabhupada. Nanam chindanti shastrani, na enam chindanti, can be cut into pieces. Nanam chindanti, so we have experience in this material world that even hardest of the elements, rock, iron, they can be cut into pieces or they can be broken. There are instruments, there are cutting instruments, scientific instruments, and various methods by which they can be cut into pieces or broken. But here Lord Shri Krishna is describing about the living force, the soul, that nanam chindanti shastrani, all weapons. The soul cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon. Lord Shri Krishna is describing to Arjunji. Nanam chindanti shastrani. So, iron, even rock, hardest of the material elements we have experienced can be cut into pieces. But soul cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon. Nor can it be burned by fire. We have seen that everything can be burned or can be melted. But it cannot be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So there are various material elements. All of us, we experience in this world. Gross material elements. They are mainly, as per the scriptures, as per the Vedas, they are classified as bhumi. Earthly elements, all the elements in our periodic table. In chemistry, we all have studied. So all those elements are classified mainly as bhumi. Bhumi, apo, water, anala, fire, ether. Then mind, intelligence and ego. There are even finer elements, very subtle elements. Lord Shri Krishna will describe in the forthcoming verses and forthcoming chapter. Bhumi, apo, nala, vayu, kham, manaha, buddhir, ahankar, iti amme, bhinna me prakriti rashtada. These are Krishna's separated energies. And there are 24 elements described in Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Kapila to his Lord Kapil Muni, to his mother Devahuti. And the analytical study of soul and super soul, by studying the difference between material elements and the living force or the soul or super soul, that comes under the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy, which is very nicely explained by Lord Kapil Muni, by Lord Shri Krishna himself in one of his avatara as Lord Kapila, to his mother Devahuti. 24 elements are mentioned there. So there are gross elements which we can see, which we can perceive by our senses, by our knowledge acquiring senses. There are 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So we can see them, we can feel them, we can perceive them. Earth, water, fire, air. But then there are subtle elements, ether, mind, intelligence, material mind, intelligence, and ego, which we cannot see or even perceive by our material senses. But here Lord Shri Krishna is explaining that all these elements, the soul is unaffected. All these elements cannot affect The soul is unaffected by these elements. The soul or the living being has a different existence altogether. It has got a spiritual existence. It is not a part of the material nature, it is a part of spiritual nature. And Lord Shri Krishna here is explaining that it cannot be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor it can be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind. So, immutable. Actually, truly speaking, immutable. So all these changes, we consider ourselves to be the body. Because we are in the impression of the body, we consider ourselves to the body, and the body can be burned, body can be cut into pieces, body can be burned, body can be moistened by water, withered by wind. And not only body, but all material elements. These transformations are possible. But for the soul, all these elements, they cannot have any effect, or any device or weapon made of these elements, material elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether. That's why Swami Shrila Prabhupada begins the purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flames, rains, tornadoes, etc. are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc. in addition to the modern weapons of fire. So formerly, in the previous ages, the science was much more advanced, and Swami Shrila Prabhupada, he explains that earlier there were many weapons, and Arjunji, he was a great fighter and a great warrior, and by the grace of his spiritual master, by the grace of many demigods, he had many weapons. He was equipped. Not only Arjunji, Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, and others were also, Karna. They were also equipped with various kinds of heavenly weapons, celestial weapons, Brahmastra, Pashupastra, Agnyastra, Vayuastra, so many different kind of astras and shastras Arjunji was equipped with. So Lord Shri Krishna, in one way, he is trying to explain to Arjunji that all your weapons are, truly speaking, useless in killing the actual living being. As Lord Shri Krishna explained in the previous verses, that after death, the living force or the soul in the body is transmigrated to another body. So again, Lord Shri Krishna is explaining the nature of that soul, that the anatomy or the constitution or existence of that soul cannot be, that living being cannot be affected by any sort of material elements or material weapons what you possess. So, and Swami Shrila Prabhupada, he writes, even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons, but formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of materials. Firearms were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. So there were weapons which were able to produce water as outcome. Our today modern day weapons, atomic weapons and even nuclear weapons, the outcome, the result, the main result of all the weapons, the devastating result of all the weapons is fire, heat, light, sound. But earlier there were weapons who were able to produce. Firearms were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. So there were weapons, astras, which were able to produce tornadoes. What to speak of, suppose a tornado comes, what will happen? So they will kill, huge number of, and there were actually so many people, they fought in the war of Mahabharata. So the weapons were able to produce Firearms were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to the modern science, nor do modern scientists have knowledge of the tornado weapons. So we think that we have lot of scientific knowledge, but truly speaking, as it is described, it is only 5,000 years back. The Mahabharata, the war of Mahabharata was fought 5,000 years back approximately. So the science was much more advanced. Then they had all these kinds of weapons, but today modern scientists have no knowledge of these weapons. So nonetheless, Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of the scientific devices. So here Lord Sri Krishna is explaining, and it is very wonderfully explained in the scriptures, in the Vedas, in the Puranas, in the Upanishads. And Lord Sri Krishna, he is reconfirming or is explaining all those concepts that the soul can never be cut into pieces. The actual living being, it cannot be cut into pieces, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. So Swami Srila Prabhupada in the next purport, he explains that nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original soul. Nor was it ever possible. The soul cannot be. The soul and super soul, they are actually immutable. They have a different anatomy. They have a different existence. Their nature is entirely different. We in this material world, everybody in this material world, we have experienced only matter. We have not experienced spirit. And the spiritual existence is beyond our perception. It's beyond our material conception, and we as such we cannot perceive. So that's why Mayavadi, they used to think that it is the soul. They have that knowledge that Brahma is Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, and Aham Brahmasmi, that the soul is part and parcel of the Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, Parabrahman, Super Soul. But they think that it has come, it is separated from the Super Soul as because of their impression of the body or because of their experience of the various material dealings of this world. They used to think that soul is a physical part of the super soul and is as such physically separated, and after liberation it get dissolved or it become one with the super soul. The soul is soul and super soul, they are same. Of course they are same, as it is explained in the previous verses, but in quality, as explained by Swami Srila Prabhupada and in the other Vedic literature by the analogy of two birds sitting on the so they are birds, they are same in quality, but there is a difference. And soul is not a physical part of the super soul, that it is physically separated. Of course in the Varaha Purana it is mentioned, and in the Bhagavad Gita also confirms. Swami Srila Prabhupada writes in the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. Vibhinansha. So the living entities or the soul are separated parts of the super soul, but they are not physical separation, because it cannot be cut. What experience we have in this material world, what material experience, truly speaking, we cannot perceive or conceive spiritual things with that understanding or with that conception. Swami Srila Prabhupada says we are in the bodily concept of life. So with that concept, or with our material understanding and material intellect, we cannot understand. So the Mayavadi, however, cannot describe how the individual soul evolved from ignorance and consequently became covered by illusory energy. So all these answers, they cannot give any satisfactory answer because they lack in knowledge. But yes, they theorize as per their material understanding, as per their material experience. They try to speculate, and they try to speculate. There are many philosophers in this world. So they get some knowledge, some concepts they pick from Vedas, but because they lack in knowledge, they lack in complete knowledge, so they tend to commit mistakes in their philosophy or theory. And so Swami Shrila Prabhupada, that's why he's writing, the Mayavadi, however, cannot describe how the individual soul evolved from ignorance and consequently became covered by illusory energy. Atomic soul, they are Sanatana, eternally, but they are prone to be covered by illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as the spark of fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. So this analogy, this example, Swami Srila Prabhupada always used to take. Sparks of the fire. As long as the sparks of fire, they are in the fire, they are always shining like fire. But as soon as they fall out of the fire, they are extinguished. So spirit soul is separated. The individual soul is separated from the super soul, or the individual living being has come into ignorance. Because of the ignorance, the living entity is actually separated from the Supreme Lord, from the association of the Supreme Lord. They are now under the control of all the fallen living entities who are in ignorance, are under the jurisdiction of material nature, and it has become possible because they are separated from the association of the Supreme Lord because of ignorance. They are prone to be covered by illusory energy. So Swami Srila Prabhupada gives very wonderful this example, this analogy. He quotes everywhere in his lectures, in his conversations. The sparks of the fire, they are always illuminated and they are very bright when they are in the fire. But as soon as they are out of the fire, they are extinguished. They fall on the ground and they are extinguished. So when the living entities, when they are in association of the Supreme Lord, when they are cognizant of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, when they are cognizant of their nature, spiritual nature, identity, and their spiritual work and duty, and when they are engaged in that duty of serving the Supreme, then they are always bright. They are full of Satchit Ananda. But as soon as they are separated, they forget their real identity, they forget their relationship, and they forget their constitutional position. Krishna Bhuliya Jeev, it is very well described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Bhuliya Jeev Bhogavansha Kare. When living entity, he forgets his relationship with the Supreme Lord, the living entity or individual soul, he is always subordinate to the Supreme Lord. But because he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, he has also got that lording over tendency in very minute quantity. And when he is forgetful of his relationship, Krishna Bhuliya Jeev Bhogavansha Kare. Nikatastha Maya Tare Jhapatiya Dhare. Then he is captured then he is captured by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. He comes under the control of material nature. And there he experiences an entirely different nature. Asat Achit Nirananda, because of his ignorance, and it is similar to sparks of the fire falling out of the fire. When they fall out of the fire, they are extinguished. When they are in the fire, they are always illuminated, they are bright. So when the living entities, they are under the jurisdiction of the Devi Prakriti, or the superior nature of the Supreme Lord, they are always joyful. They are always joyful, they are full of knowledge, and Sat Chit Ananda. They do not show any signs of unhappiness or moroseness. They are always joyful, full of eternity, knowledge and bliss in that state. So as the sparks of fire, they are always very bright and illuminated and shining in the fire, but if they fall out of the fire, they are extinguished. So wonderful example, Swami Shrila Prabhupada and the Varaha Purana and Bhagavad Gita. Living entities are described as separated parts and parcels. The individual souls, though they are one in quality, but they are separated, and Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. They are eternally so according to Bhagavad Gita also. So even after liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity. So once liberated from the clutches of material energy, or once liberated from ignorance, when the living entity regains his spiritual knowledge, his spiritual identity, then also it remains as a separate identity. The living entity remains as a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of Lord to Arjuna. Because Nanam Chindanti, when it cannot be cut, so there is no possibility of it again dissolving or becoming homogeneous or becoming one with the super soul. They are eternally, the living entities are eternally separated living entities. The individual souls are eternally individual souls, but they are spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And their relationship is like master and the servant, as we saw in the previous verses. And because of the forgetfulness of one's constitutional position and identity, one is going through all the material experiences of shoka, bhaya, moha. So after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains as a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Swami Shrila Prabhupada is clearing. We will see that after receiving the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, after hearing all the instructions of Lord Shri Krishna, Arjunji will fight. It is not that after hearing he will become one with Krishna. So, but he will be liberated. He will be liberated from all shoka, from all moha, and he will engage in the fight, in executing his duty as per the guidance and instruction of Lord Shri Krishna. So he will be liberated, but he will never become one with Krishna. So Arjuna became liberated by knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. So very beautiful verse. Nanam chindanti shastrani nanam dahati pavakaha na chayanam kledayanti apo na sosyati marutaha. So the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So beautiful verse and very beautiful purport by Swami Shrila Prabhupada, very beautiful explanation. So it is very, very important to read Swami Shrila Prabhupada's books on a day-to-day basis, so that we can also understand these spiritual concepts. And if Swami Srila Prabhupada, he says, if one understands one word, one shloka, then his life can be successful. So all this is so important. So with prayers that may Lord Sri Krishna, may Swami Srila Prabhupada, may Lord Chaitanya, they bless all of us. I would like to stop here, and we will take up further verses in our next session. Till then, Jai Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Shrotrashat, Shri Srimati Sivangi Sabha Charnar, Vind Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai. All glories to His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnar, Vind Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Bhagavad Gita, all glories to Lord Shri Krishna, all glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Holy Name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.